No.
Where did you have it?
Send it over to Sandy. Sandy, that's the one that should have been.
That's San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was,
Yes.
okay, I didn't know.
I emailed it to,
Well, I didn't know. I gave her mine.
They're the next one's I think in
emailed it to her.
Hey, Joe. How are you? Really easy to just poke some holes in this one. Our timing was yeah, it is.
setting up for their That's what you see me doing. Is
Let's call the meeting to order, please.
Yeah, but I have arrived, of course.
Monique, do we have a quorum?
Yes, ma'am, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Let's stand for the invocation. Well, let's do a moment of silence, please. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor and protect this flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, one day under God, one and indivisible.
They're all gone.
I believe the copy of the minutes that we have with a number of corrections noted, is that accurate, or do we need the other one?
We need the corrected one.
Okay, I think then we'll have to have copies made of those minutes and put off approving the minutes till later in the meeting when we've had a chance to have that done.
Maybe we can approve the minutes after the executive session. That's what the word I was looking for. That'll work.
That'll work.
Okay. Is there a secretary's report?
Not really. I have received no correspondence I'm aware of to report. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a treasurer's report?
Maybe. Bank balances as of Wednesday, October 18, 2017. Del Rio Bank's Texas Community Credit Card, $49,702.38. Texas Community Checking, $40,692.75. Texas Community Money Market, $2,564.21. Brackettville Bank and Trust, General Fund, $92,239.96. Payroll, $6,588.33. Restricted Fund, $440,611.83. Las Moras, $19,011.61. Subtotal, $651,411.07. Fort Clark Historical Building Preservation Fund, $18,645.53. Fort Clark Hail Damage Repair Fund, $52,531.29, for a total of $722,587.89. We do not have reconciled bank statement balances because our CPA is still working to make some corrections. Bank transfers. Bank and Trust Las Moras this is September 2017 estimated. Bank and Trust Las Moras, $0 operating expense. Texas Community Checking, $75,000 operating expense. Bank and Trust Payroll, $68,000. Bank and Trust Restricted, $0 for operating expense, for a estimated total of $143,000. September 2017 actual, to Bank and Trust Las Moras, $0 operating expense. Texas Community Checking, $82,907.52 operating expense. Bank and Trust Payroll, $60,800, and Bank and Trust Restricted, $0 for an actual transfer of $143,707.52. October 2016 actual, Bank and Trust Las Moras, $0 operating expense. Texas Community Checking, $62,465 operating expense. Bank and Trust Payroll, $70,000. Bank and Trust Restricted, $0 for operating expense, for $132,465. October 2017 estimated, Bank and Trust Las Moras, $0 operating expense. Texas Community Checking, $110,000 operating expense. Bank and Trust Payroll, $68,000. Bank and Trust Restricted, operating expense, $0, for a total of $178,000. And the increase is due to anticipated payments for health insurance and taxes. And that concludes my report.
Give a motion to approve the transfers.
Yeah.
Did you have a motion?
Okay, I move that the bank transfers and treasurer's report be approved.
Second.
All in favor? We have a special presentation today. There you are. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Herring. I am the Executive Director of CTRA, Cooperative Teamwork and Recycling Assistance. We are the nonprofit organization that works with the Recycle Center to market your recyclables get them sold, get them out of here. I basically got a call about 10 years ago from Judy Winchell. She wanted to start a recycling program here on the fort, wasn't quite sure where to go with it. We had a big meeting at the theater to discuss what we could do, where it could go, what you were going to take. And 10 years later, the program is just doing fantastic. The baler that has now been included into the program is baling cardboard and plastic, and that's doing great. Judy's going to give her report and tell y'all about the last truck you sent, which was really, really good. But overall, this award is through the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling, and they are the state recycling organization for Texas. Judy and Lee Winchell and Bill Herman, I mean, there have just been so many volunteers that made this program something that it is today, and I just couldn't let it pass by without nominating y'all for an award in that regard, because so many programs I work with, towns of 20,000, 50,000, they worry they can't start a recycling program, and I use y'all as an example all the time of a really good one that's bustling, taking everything that you possibly can. I know a lot of people don't necessarily understand what recycling is and why it's so great and why it's worth it. But environmentally speaking, it's one of the things that you can do that truly goes the step further. It's better than driving a Prius. It's better than so many things that you could do in your house, because it really does help resources that it's saving water, trees, whatnot, but more importantly and more realistically for us, it's saving space in that landfill. Instead of putting things in the ground and paying to do so, you're actually getting it out and getting some revenue in return for all of your efforts. So on behalf of the State of Texas Alliance for Recycling, I'd like to give Judy Winchell the Volunteer of the Year Award. Yeah, come up with
Is that like a recycled circuit board?
It sure is. They made it. And the award ceremony is next week. I was going to get her to come to Austin to get this award there. But because she's on vacation, I really wanted to make a special presentation and come out to you guys. And really thank everyone. If you've spent 10 minutes at the recycling center, if you just drop off your recyclables, you're really doing something. So I wanted to make sure that was, everyone was aware of it.
Just say I'm speechless. Can anyone in this room believe that? No.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome.
Thank you,
Thank
Rachel.
you guys. Thank you.
I would just like to take this opportunity, one, to thank Rachel for remembering Lee, because he was very instrumental in getting this program up and running. Couldn't have done it without him. And Bill, Marta, and Ann, all three of them have been recycling volunteers since this program started. So the support starts at the top. And every volunteer who's ever done even one shift, all of you who recycle, thank you. Thank you very much for helping me out. And I'll come back and get my report later.
Yes, you will. The old Corey couldn't wait to where we have them on the Maryland.
Thank you. I appreciate it. My name is Marilyn McNerlin. I'm president of Old Quarry. And I appreciate this, but I have a little bit of things going today for myself, so I appreciate you letting me on.
50th wedding anniversary, guys.
Just wanted to give a little report from Old Quarry. On September 27th of this year, I received an email noting the opportunity to purchase theater seating that was 10 years old at a reasonable price from a broker selling the chairs for a concert hall that was installing 1,000 new chairs. These were all in excellent condition with padded seats and backs, even armrests. I contacted Old Quarry Board and made a proposal that we purchase 100 to 200 chairs and donate them to the fort to be installed in the theater. After a unanimous vote by our board, I contacted Mr. Lawrence and made an offer that we would purchase 200 chairs if we might get some help from shipping from the board, or 100 chairs and we would pay for the shipping. We had an opportunity to jointly ship these chairs with another theater group and splitting the cost. Mr. Lawrence agreed to forward the information to the Fort Board, and I said if they had questions or concerns to let me know. What we asked of the board was to install the chairs. My additional comment was that this was a situation of urgency as they were being sold first come, first served. There are theater groups all over the country that were interested. This is a rare opportunity. As usually when concert halls or theaters are getting new chairs, they've already have the current chairs sold. The last time we had an opportunity like this was 10 years ago, and we didn't even get there in time. The biggest complaint people have when attending an event at the theater is the very uncomfortable chairs. I sent several informational options to Mr. Lawrence that he forwarded to the board. He said that they could put me on the agenda on October 21st meeting. I reiterated that this was a situation of urgency, and if we didn't act, we would lose the chairs. I mentioned that we could put 5 chairs on a skid so they could be removable, or just install them. If we had 100 chairs, we would still have room for tables, for dinner theater, or eating hot dogs at the movies. We would be able to provide comfortable seating not only for theater productions, but movies, business meetings, weddings, annual meetings, and whatever else might be held in the theater. We felt this was an additional opportunity to do something positive for the whole community at the fort. Everything we earn with Old Quarry goes back to the Fort Theater by means of lighting, sound, curtains, costumes, and so on, as well as scholarships. Last year, we gave 2 $500 scholarships to high school seniors. I again offer to answer any questions or concerns any board members had. I answered the questions, and the response I received from the board after their deliberation was no. I did ask for an explanation, as we were trying to donate something to benefit the people and a positive addition to the theater. I am now on the agenda, but it is now too late. There are no more chairs. The Old Quarry is sorry, but we were not able to donate an asset to the theater and the fort, but we tried. And maybe sometime in the future, if some chairs become available, you may think about this in the interim, and the possibility beforehand, because when things like this come about, it is a very short window. But I thank you all.
We have the discussion of this scheduled for later on the agenda. Your presentation. Thank you. You can go ahead.
Thank you. There is no.
I understand. Go ahead.
Okay, the emails that were forwarded to us from you, Marilyn, were not clear on the $1,500 for the shipping costs. And I know at one point I asked for clarification and did not receive it. And at another point, when you put forth one of your plans, I said the plan looked good if it doesn't cost the fort anything, if we don't have to spend the $1,500. And although you made it very clear here in your presentation, I don't feel it was clear in your email at all that it was not going to cost the fort any money. So that's a shame that it seems there's been some miscommunication.
Okay. We're starting to discuss, and that goes later. I know, but she wanted to make a presentation, so we'll discuss it. We'll discuss it in more detail later. Thank you. Executive Officer's report.
Yes, ma'am. Well, as you've noticed in your packets, there are no financials, and I apologize for that. However, it is because we have found some glitches in the QuickBooks system. We don't know exactly what is going on at this point. We're going to contact the QuickBooks company to see if they can help us. But what seems to be happening is that bills that are being paid in the month of October are automatically being posted to the months of August and September. And Randy, our CPA, believes that this may have been happening for a few months. So we need to get that glitch fixed. Also, there is with the the Sun Belt system, what we call the black system, is also giving us some difficulties as well. We're having troubles calculating our membership roster and our numbers, and that's a very serious problem right now because we have to have those numbers in order to calculate our common property assessment, and we need to do that very soon. So we are picking it apart manually, trying to determine what has occurred and what needs to be the fix. We have been very diligently trying to get estimates on the many projects that should be done in the coming year. And I got to tell you, some of those estimates are pretty scary. For example, the foundation repair for the NCO club, a Band-Aid fix may be $11,000. A true fix would be $85,000. So that'll be coming before you in the near future, along with others. You know of the wastewater settling pond project that was being considered for that MUD was considering for the golf course. My understanding is that that project is now dead. It will not be going forward. Instead, we're having to, we are working with MUD to see if we can come up with a plan B. That plan B may be something along the lines of an irrigation system out in the very back near the plant that will allow us to discharge the gray water. I promised Randy we would work very diligently with him to see if we can come up with a feasible alternative.
Tell them why.
Well, my understanding, the reason why is that the city of Bracketville could not produce the financial audits for the last few years, I think, and because of that, the grant could not go forward. We received an insurance check in the amount of $1,500 for the damage that was caused to the Highway 90 fence out front. That was very long coming. Apparently they sent the check and it never reached us, so they had to reissue a check. We have it now. As you know, the golf course was recently vandalized. That matter is now in the hands of the authorities, and that will take its course. Sheriff Coe informs us that with respect to the enforcement of speed zones and the like, that the only thing that is necessary for us to do, and he tells us that a board member, I presume the president, would have to contact the Texas Department of Transportation in order to get the proper signage that we need with all those rules and regulations, and then simply erect those signs, and he will then send his deputies to enforce the speed limits. This is in response to some conversation we had with the sheriff some months ago. This is what he's telling us, and so we can pursue that. On a brighter note, the pumpkin patch and the fall festival will be going on today. The pumpkin patch has been going on for quite some time. That's a cooperative effort. We are working with Pumpkins USA, which is an organization that is raising monies for their ministry, also in cooperation with the First Baptist Church in Bracketville. And we are working with them to hold this pumpkin patch. If you haven't been out there, it's a bunch of orange, I'll tell you that. And it's really a nice setup for photographs and things of that sort. The pumpkins are for sale. The way that this happens is that Pumpkins USA, on a handshake deal, produce the pumpkins for us at no cost. And then we, in cooperation with the First Baptist Church, sell those pumpkins, and we split the proceeds with the Pumpkins USA. So it's a no cost to us, and it allows us to generate a little bit of revenue, which we will probably be using for more community activities. On October the 29th, there's going to be a Halloween double feature for the movie night. And then on the 11th of November, another movie, Cars 3. My understanding is that Old Quarry is going to be showing the Lonesome Dove movie in the very near future as well. So there's going to be plenty of movies to watch on the 4th. The Hunters Roundup is coming up. The Hunters Roundup on November the 4th, we are sponsoring the Hunters Roundup, and the Chamber is raffling a 4x4 Kawasaki mule. I heard some concerns that the fort was in some way financially responsible for that, but that is not the case at all. That is a Chamber event whereby the Chamber of Commerce has purchased the mule and is selling the tickets to raffle it off in order to raise funds for the Chamber. By our sponsoring the Roundup, we are getting advertisement and an opportunity for a booth on during the event so that we can sell more of our and book more of our hunts. Speaking of that, the deer harvest this year is going very, very well. We're just a couple of weeks into the harvest. Already there have been some 8 deers taken, but we have generated some $32,000 in revenue, so that's rather successful. And finally, I just attended the first meeting of the Frontier Christmas Committee, which is scheduled for December the 1st and December the 2nd. We're getting a late start on that, but I have a feeling it's going to be a wonderful event. Probably, as I'm told, there were very well-attended, very big events in the past years, and we're going to be trying this year to bring it up to that level and maybe beyond. Oh, and there's going to be a tamale cook-off at the same time on the 2nd. I don't remember what day it was, but Jan just reminded me of that. So yeah, what we're calling the first annual World Championship Tamale Cook-Off, I guess. Oh, there's Mr. John Hope there.
Yeah. Kinney County World Champion Tamale Cook-Off. Actually be on December the 1st, but the trophies will be given out on the 2nd, the evening of the 2nd.
All right, thanks for that clarification. Also, I'll point out that the fire department is going to be taking or collecting toys and donations and bicycles. Am I correct? Did I get that right? Yeah. So put that on your gift list as well. I know that would be appreciated. The only other thing I should say is that there will be no recap on Monday morning. I'm going back to Canton for a couple of days. The juvenile board there, which is the district judge, the district attorney, the county court of law judge, and the county judge have asked me to please come up and to help them in resolving an employee grievance issue that they have going on. So I'm going to be gone for a couple of days. So there'll be no recap. And that's it.
Somebody must like you up there.
One question.
Yes, sir.
Richard. On the foundation, that is startling on the cost for that. But it seems to me, if I recall correctly, I may not, that you mentioned also there might be a foundation problem with the RV park office.
Sir. Yes, sir.
So we haven't got anything.
Yes, sir, we do. We have the one estimate there of about 11 to 12,000, I think.
Okay.
No, it may be.
We don't want to disclose that probably. Thank you.
Well, okay. It's expensive.
Yes, foundation with all this.
Okay. Do we have an airport report? There she is.
Good
morning. I'm Maria Perkins with the Airport Committee, and I have a brief report. We've had, over the past a month since the last board meeting, we've had 3 visitors. 2 were day trips, and 1 aircraft stayed overnight. We declined 2 requests. One of them was a student pilot who was carrying passengers, and according to FAA, as a student, you can't carry passengers and operate on a remote airfield, so we had to decline that. And then the second one was an uninsured pilot with an uninsured aircraft, so that as well was declined. So I wanted to make sure I stress those. Airfield maintenance, it's continuous. I'm sure a few of you have seen us out there mowing and removing thorns. Ongoing projects, I wanted to talk a little bit about our open house. We are going to have our open house on November 4th, as previously reported. And the purpose of the open house is for the residents of the fort to be able to come into the gate, see our aircraft. We won't have them all because one of our planes is going into annual, so it won't be here physically. And then we've got one of our pilots who hasn't quite arrived yet from his vacation. So we may not have all of our aircraft out there, but the goal is to bring aircraft out there. So you can walk around, ask us questions. My 5-year-old will be out there to answer questions as well about the airfield and airplanes. But really the goal is just so that you can come in and walk around the planes, see why we have the airfield, why the planes are out there. And we are not going to have any kind of demonstrations of the aircraft. So aside from taxiing them back to the hangar, which we push. So there will be no aerial demonstrations of any kind.
Do you have a time on that?
Yes, ma'am, I do. From 10 o'clock to noon, and I understand as well that it's the same day as the Hunters Roundup, which is great. We figured it'd be an opportunity if there were potential hunters that flew and wanted to come check out the airfield, they'd have that opportunity as well. Are there any questions about the open house? Yes, sir.
My question is not about the open house, I'm sorry. My question is, have you gotten a report back on that deer from out there yet?
I haven't actually reported on that yet, sir, but I will right now. After I get to the next thing. Are there any questions about the open house at all?
Would you remember that you were reporting to the board?
Oh, yes, I'm talking to everybody. Yes, ma'am. But do you have any questions? All right, awesome. So the second thing I wanted to talk about was our fly-in, and I wanted to explain what a fly-in is. The date that is scheduled for is December the 9th, and there have been a few questions that I've been asked about aerial demonstrations, and aerial demonstrations are considered to be an air show. We are not hosting an air show. In the future, we do want to host an air show, but we have to take baby steps, and the way we do that is through hosting a fly-in. The fly-in is geared for pilots so that we can recruit pilots to come fly to the airfield, see what the airfield's about, see the potential for investing into the fort to become a member of the fort and be able to utilize the airfield. And it's kind of, with all intents and purposes, kind of like an airplane conference, if you will. So the focus isn't to bring cars, it's to bring planes and the pilots. So typically for an event like that, people will fly in. We're going to be clearing out areas for them to be able to park. We're expecting, hopefully, 20 aircraft at a minimum. We currently have 14 tentative aircraft and then 5 confirmed. So we're around that goal that we've got. And I have blocked off rooms at the hotel for those guests who want to stay at the hotel, again, to bring in the revenue to the fort and showcase what the fort has. And part of our program is going to be to provide a historical presentation, hopefully from Mr. Knoll, who I've already contacted, so that they can learn a little bit about the history of the airfield as well. The goal for a year or 2 from now is to have an open to the fort, open to the public if the board decides that they want to open it to the public, air show type event. But to do that, we have to have special permission from the FAA to convert our airspace to allow for aerial demonstration, as well as to, we have to have hired pilots already with aircraft to provide that aerial demonstration in advance before we can request that information and approval from the FAA. So we're just not at that point. The cost for something like that is between $3,000 to $12,000. So it's just too costly at this point, but we do want to do that. Are there any questions about the fly-in?
Anyone? Okay.
Okay. And then to answer your question, sir, while we were out mowing the field, our guys found a 10-point buck that was just dead. We don't know what happened to it. We called security. Security, along with the game warden, came out and they retrieved the deer. And from that point, we have no idea how it was killed. We have no idea how it was there, but we did do the right thing and make sure that the appropriate authorities had that information, and they took the deer with them. So I don't know if you have anything to speak further on it, sir, but I don't have anything.
Was that your question, Chuck?
No, my
I didn't
question
think
was,
so.
I understood that they took the deer in for testing because they're worried about a disease. And I wondered if we got anything back on that, any kind of conclusion.
Well, sir,
That would be the game warden.
Right,
And
they said they would let them know.
No, we have not been notified of anything. I would assume that they would contact Mr. Lawrence.
We don't know anything as yet.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. And then, were there any other questions?
Anyone? Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. The Architectural Committee? You again.
Good evening. It's been a pretty quiet month, not much going on. We approved 7 permits. We tabled one. He didn't bring it in his plot lines, and we need that to approve. But I'm sure he'll probably bring it in Monday. And this past month, we had 46 CC&R violations. 12 are non-compliant. 24 have been resolved, and 10 are still pending. So we're moving forward on that.
Are they all similar, or are you finding?
It varies. You know, some of them are just trash that hasn't been removed. Some's broken windows, a tree on the roof of one that has been there for a couple of months. You know, it's vacant, there's nobody living there, but, you know, still,
problem.
it's like that.
Yeah.
And just junk in general, you know. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What do you do about property that is falling apart, just like you described, but it's owned by the court?
It's owned by the fort?
Absolutely.
That I don't know.
I don't either. I live next door to it.
I don't know where he's talking about.
Maybe Unit 32, Unit 15, property 32. You're doing a good job raising cats.
Oh, yeah, that's a problem.
I know they're all over the place, but you're raising. Okay, that's enough.
When you have, when you have a question like this, it should go to the Architectural Committee, because they need to pass it on where it belongs. If this is a fort-owned item, then we've got problems here, but I'm saying that when you have a problem like this, you should take it to the Architectural Committee, because they can get the CC&Rs.
I did 2 years ago.
Don't stop.
I'm not going to say anymore.
Okay.
I'll be quiet.
Okay. We have a Finance Advisory Committee report.
We do later on. I'm just letting you know that the Finance Advisory Committee met on the 10th, and we received some recommendations, and we have scheduled that for new business. So.
When is this scheduled?
Huh?
Discussion.
Under new business. Okay, so rather than do it twice, we can get through the rest of the committee reports.
So moving right along to golf. There's Debbie.
Can I borrow your notes back? Mine disappeared when I brought you yours.
You got it.
Well, we met this week, and we didn't have a quorum, but we had a lot of discussion on several things that we're proposing to try to do. I have also asked Mr. Lawrence for a meeting. I don't know when it's going to be. I got 2 tournaments coming up, but I would like to get with you. We need help with our big tournaments, and I've got a list of what should be happening. And I would like to see if y'all can't help us in some volunteers, some things that we need to do out there. But that's in that meeting I want to have with you.
Sure.
I actually have our 2016-2017 physical year of golfers. And for 2015-2016, we had 10,058 rounds of golf played. In the year of 2016-2017, we had 9,926 golfers. One of the things that brought in more money to the fort was the guest golfers. In 2015-2016, we had 1,348 outside golfers play. In 2016-2017, we had 1,500. So that was an increase where we needed the increase of golfers, because the outside golfers are the ones that bring more money to the fort from the outside. One thing in September, those numbers probably would have been a little higher. We had 5 days that we did not have any golfers at all because of the rain. So I really believe if you added the 30 or so golfers out there for each of those days, we would have exceeded total golfers for this year versus last year. That's pretty much all I wanted to say on the physical stuff here. We do have 2 tournaments scheduled. We have a trick or treat, our 7th annual Halloween tournament. Again, this is also on, no, this one isn't, October the 28th. What this is an appreciation to the golfers that support the end of the month scramble. And all the proceeds that we have made from that goes back into the golfers that participated. If they have not participated in the list, 2 of them, they are not eligible for a drawing for some cash money. We've done that in increments of $10 up to $25 for the drawings. That's just to let all the golfers who attend the things that we try to do, we want to pay back that money to you. This is a fun tournament. It's a 4-person scramble. There will be Halloween items throughout the golf course. If you find it, you bring it in for a prize. If you wear a costume, you get a free mulligan. That's just a free golf hit. So there's a men's and women's closest to the pin. There's also a men's and women's longest drive. You pay $3 to get into that. That's 100% payback to whoever wins it.
Can I have your flyer?
Yeah, or I can send her a better one.
Okay. I want to post it on the display.
Okay. No, I'll send Monique the actual JPEG on it.
Okay, thank you.
And then on the Church Alliance fundraiser golf tournament. This tournament is what actually helps buy the food and stuff for the Thanksgiving feast. That is on November the 4th also. It is a 4-person scramble, $30 per person. All proceeds go back into the fund to help for the Thanksgiving feast. You can buy mulligans at that at $5 a piece, 3 maximum. Again, there will be a men's and women's longest drive. The start time is 10 a.m. sharp, so be there early to sign up because we want to get out because we want the people to be able to have their lunch. There is free lunch at that one if you enter. And if there's any money left over, it goes to the Benevolent Fund and also the Kinney County Food Bank. If there's any money left after they pay for the Thanksgiving feast, then that's where that other money will go to. So come out and support that. It's a great thing for the community. I would like to make one more comment. We actually had posted the damage to the golf course. We had 1,895 people that looked at our post. We had numerous comments. And I believe this is a true testament of the people that actually care about what happens to that course. That is the most hits we've ever had on our Facebook page for the golf course itself. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, that people are looking, they are concerned, and I thought it was very well received. There was no ugly comments, and again, that was very helpful in putting that post out there, because it's a lot of work to keep it up.
I know that our staff has made some repairs.
They have. I was looking at it yesterday. We still need some more sand, try to level up some stuff at the back of a couple of those greens that were pretty well hit with it. Some of the ones on the fairway in front of number 10, I don't know if we need to try to put some dirt in there. I noticed a pile of dirt where they dug out the ditch over on, what's the street behind you, Russell?
Holy.
Well, where they dug that ditch out, there's a bunch of dirt sitting over there. I was just wondering if that couldn't be transported over there and fill in some holes, because it looks like real good dirt. So that's something we might talk about later.
Yeah, sure.
That's pretty much all I had.
I have one question. It sounded like the numbers went down this year.
They did go down, but like I said, we had 5 days in September that we did not have any golf because of the rain. And it wasn't much. My notes had all the actual figures, and I don't know who picked my notes up on the back table.
Someone who wanted them badly.
Well, I did, but I usually do all the calculation to tell you how much and everything, but it wasn't very much at all. And I think if we'd had those 5 days, that we would have exceeded last year.
Oh, I see. You're talking about just the 5 days in September would have
Yes.
made a big difference?
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Definitely, because the weather was cooler, the rain was out there, but we couldn't play. Nobody played golf. So,
Thank you.
you have your notes back.
Thank you. I hope you find yours.
Preservation?
Morning. We had a very short meeting. Basically, we had an update on the drainage that's going to be put in by the promissory building, and they're going to start November the 4th. We're going out again for bid on Seminole Hall in the east and the west end, and as soon as we get that in, hopefully we'll get some contractors to respond to this ad they didn't the last time. And that's all I got to report for the presentation today. It was really a short meeting.
Okay, thank you. Recycling. I'm not telling her that.
Stretching up to this microphone, maybe I'll
You could probably pull it down to you.
It's kind of late for it, but I know. No, I'm. All right. I'm going to lay the bombshell on you. That last load of cardboard that we sent out is going to amount to $5,958 to the foot. Wow. No transportation costs.
How much again?
$5,958 is what's on the sheet. That's our net. Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So now we're sailing.
Okay, so now you've set the bull off.
No,
You have to do that
actually,
everywhere.
what Rachel said to me, she said they've never had a truck that came to that high of gross weight. Never. She says, we expect them to be 35 to 38. This one, at $200 a ton, it was 59.5. This is wonder the truck didn't break into in the middle. But this shows that those bale makers out there are really stuffing those bales, because they expect the bales to weigh 900 to 1,000 pounds. It's obviously, it's over 45 bales is my understanding. They had to weigh more than 1,000 pounds.
I believe we just paid for the baler too, didn't we?
Yeah, more than. You think
I
that we
know.
raised almost $4,000 toward that baler in donation money. Now I need a scale for the recycle center, so we can start weighing our gaylords. And hopefully, well, we need to run a check on whether Waste Management is shorting us on weights. And I don't think the scale is gonna run much more than $300. We're not talking 5,000. Now, second baler perhaps. I never keep, so,
There you go.
but still, our program is really working well.
Thank you.
And
Constantly
and
compliments.
thanks to our volunteers.
Oh, you know it. We have one of the cleanest recycling centers in the state, I'm told. And that's because every single person who volunteers out there rides herd on it. So, I thank you all. We're just gonna keep going. We'll probably be ready for another pickup, I'm hoping, by the end of November, certainly. The bad news, and there's always some bad news here, is that China has decided they will no longer accept recyclables from the United States. And they have been the primary recipient of our plastic and mixed paper. That market has shut down completely because the president of China does not want China to be America's trash dump. And this is a result of nasty remarks that were made by the states, so we're going to sit with that. But it is going to affect our pricing for the foreseeable future. Other than that, we'll just keep collecting, we'll keep using our transportation grant to cover the cost of it, and it's not going in our landfill. Okay? That's
Okay.
all I have.
And congratulations again.
Thank you, Mary.
Our Search and Certification Committee is a brief ad hoc committee that doesn't last more than, 4 or 5 months? Have you all met, and do you have a chair?
I'll do this from here. We have not met officially. I've got from Monique the list of the members, and I've talked to Steve, and I've talked to Sharon, but I have not talked to the others yet. I'm going to try to do that between now and Sunday afternoon, because I'm leaving for lunch. But when I've been on this committee in previous years, and there really isn't a great deal the committee needs to do until November, December. We do have some papers in. We've got applications out. We've got some papers back in, and others that we're expecting to get soon.
Judy, don't you, the committee has the responsibility to set the cutoff date for applications to be submitted.
And that will be in line with what last year's schedule was. There's no need, Dan, to reinvent the wheel and redo the schedule.
I think usually it's because it has to be given to the board, their regular meeting in January.
Yes.
So the first week in January or sometime thereabouts.
Yes, and it needs to be, this last year, there was a little bit of.
Yes.
And that, we aimed for this.
No.
It will be clear, it will be,
A deadline's a
a
deadline.
deadline is a deadline is a deadline, yes.
Right.
And we'll get it to the Post Dispatch.
But it'll probably be sometime the first part of
The
January.
last year, I believe, was supposed to be January 15th.
Yes.
And I don't think that going any later than that is necessary.
No. Thank you.
You know,
Anything else on search and certification?
What is the deadline to have those applications in?
I don't think they've met to set them. You can pretty much go by last year, but they have not met to set the deadlines and so forth.
it will be
So-
pretty much the same as last year.
Yeah,
Only
hang
if-
around, they'll be there. The ad hoc bylaw revision, that's on there, but did we actually have anything from the committee? Go ahead.
That committee has been dissolved, Myrna.
Did we actually dissolve you?
So, I mean, I guess I need to make a motion that we dissolve the committee.
You don't need to make a
Or
motion.
somebody.
That was why you're on there. I just remembered why you're on there.
Okay.
I guess we can have a motion to dissolve the ad hoc bylaw committee. Is there one?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? You're done. You ready? Community council report.
Thank you very much. This is going to be a split report if you don't mind. First of all, Community Council has decided that they're going to do their own concessions for as long as possible. If the time comes that we decide that we can't do it, then we will open it on a 50-50 basis with a youth group or youth group. And this next item is, you're going to talk about it later, but I'm going to go ahead and address it because I was requested to do so. A few people have asked me to urge you to make sure that you get the AC or heating unit into the training rehab room in the adult center. Please keep in mind that not only is it used by people trying to stay healthy, but it's also people trying to fight, or people fighting to regain their health, such as stroke victims, diabetes, cardio sufferers, and fat people like me who need to drop a few pounds every now and then. The lack of the AC heat prevents the place from being used during half the year or more. And let's not forget that some of our law enforcement personnel use it also, and it doesn't hurt to keep those people happy. There's a few pieces of equipment that need to be replaced. I have been in, and the only one that I have seen that would be a major problem would be the incline setup board. It's the foot stop is stationary, and so therefore you can't get your feet into it in order to do your setups. And I'm going to turn my mic over at this time to Allison Watkins, if you don't mind, because she's going to address the ghostly tours, and I'll let her bring the good news to you.
Ghostly Tours is running tonight and next Saturday night from 7 o'clock until 11:40. We're having 3 trailers and they'll be running every 20 minutes. The office has been taking reservations, and I'll go over to the office after this meeting to find out how many people are actually signed up for this evening. So I'm really excited about it. We haven't had as much advertising as we've had in the past, but I'm still very excited about it. And I think that next Saturday night will probably be a little better attended than tonight, and hopefully the rain will hold off for us for this evening as well. The next item, I attended Fort Stockton Living History Day yesterday. It's a 2-day event. I could only attend for Education Day because I needed to be back for Ghostly Tours for today. Spoke to the living historians there, and every living historian that I spoke to at that time told me that if we cancel Fort Clark Days 2018, we may not get our living historians back. I already knew that. Our first Friday and Saturday in March is big on Texas history. Our living historians commit to Fort Clark. We are the first on the circuit for the year. If they have to find another event to go to during that very significant weekend in Texas, many of them will not be back in following years. They will find another event to go to, and their loyalties will change. So I had emailed Fort Clark Community Council Board earlier in the week, and I committed to making sure the living historians were here that first Friday and Saturday in March. I would make sure that the $6,000 needed to bring the historians in for stipends, housing, and food would be raised. I'm hoping that the fort will agree to pay the $2,500 or whatever the insurance fee is. If the board does not agree to pay for that, I will tell you I will make it happen. We cannot afford to lose the living historians. We don't need everything else that's going on to satisfy the 501c3 of Community Council. You don't want Community Council to lose the 501c3 because that's how the bingo is going to be carried out, is through our 501c3. The reason why we got the 501c3, and this was back during Debbie Isaac's time, and she and I think Linda O'Brien were the major writers on that 501c with the U.S. government, was because of the education that we provide to the citizens and the children of this area in Texas. So I spoke to the living historians yesterday, and for example, Kevin Malcolm from Fort McCavitt, and they are here every year and does a wonderful job. He was so relieved to hear that we were going to have a Fort Clark Days 2018. Doug Baum, who is with the Camels, said that I gave him the biggest smile that he's had in ages, that we were going to have a Fort Clark Days 2018. We do not need all the food vendors. We do not need the arts and crafts vendors if there's not anybody who will make that happen. Fort Clark Days is about the historians. It is about educating our youth and educating our community. It also gives us the opportunity to invite other people into the fort to see what is going on. So I'm hoping that the board will support us by paying the insurance, which you've done for the past 2 years or possibly 3 years since it was determined that we needed to have that insurance. We will make it happen if you will allow us to use the facilities that we've used in the past, which would again be Shafter Hall, and then the empty saddle area, the area down below that with a footbridge. We could cut down on costs for bringing the historians in if I didn't have to pay so much for housing. Doug is a big expense with the Camels. The other big expense is housing. Seminole Hall would be the perfect place to house living historians. When I went to Fort McCavitt last year, I stayed on the second floor of their building that they have for maintaining the fort. Now I know that's a state historic site, but they just put up the Japanese, the Japanese fold-out things and had beds in there that they had actually made and stayed in there. It was quite comfortable. We could have cots in Seminole Hall, females on one end, males on the other end, and yes, husbands and wives will split up for a weekend because they did at Fort McCavitt. But the problem is we have no bathroom facilities in Seminole Hall. So, and we're not going to have historians walk outside of a building and then, walk around the corner and whatever to go to the Johns. We could have the little basins in there, I suppose. But if something like that could be done in the future, that would really help cut down on costs. When we look at historical events, and for example, yesterday at Fort Stockton, they did not have arts and crafts vendors. They did not have food vendors. They had only living historians. When we went to Fort McCavitt, they don't have arts and crafts vendors. They don't have the food vendors, and yet these are all successful events for the purpose of educating the public, and then again inviting the public into the fort to see the facilities that we have.
Can I interrupt you?
You sure can.
I think you're thinking the board is against having
No.
We're not against it.
I know you're not. I know you're not against it. I'm trying to lay out. I'm trying to lay out all the reasons why we need to have it. I know that it's gone back and forth. That there's not going to be a Fort Clark Days because we don't have people to do the arts and crafts. We don't have people to do the food vendors and such.
This basically came from the community council, which tells us what they want us to do. And so I was surprised when the community council decided not to do it.
So was I.
Yes.
Sorry.
I think the board is willing to do whatever it takes to get it going.
Okay, great.
Do you need an answer now, or?
We're moving forward. We're moving forward. I just would like to know how stressed out I'm going to have to be, and we could know by next month
insurance?
about the insurance cost. Yes.
I think that you could plan on the board. Anyone disagree with that? No.
Okay. Fantastic.
I'm
Okay.
willing to take a motion if somebody wants to do it.
Can we get a current cost from Warren?
Yes, let me look into it a little bit first. Just
Okay.
Okay.
Then we will look at what it will cost, and then
Great.
we'll get back to you.
And just as long as I have enough notice, I'm fairly confident that the $6,000 will not be an issue. There will not be other funds coming in for preservation, and that's just a fact that we're going to have to live with, that it's going to be in to cover the cost of the living historians. So, do you have any questions or concerns? We need permission to use the property as well.
You of course are going to get that permission, but I think we more need to know what your needs are.
Okay.
And how the board can, I mean, obviously we can provide the property, and when we talk about someplace that would have restroom facilities, that's something we can do in the future, but it's something like that we don't know, that we need to find out.
Yep. Okay. And that would be looking down in the future, just to have that in the back of your mind, that if we got Seminole Hall, now in the past, Seminole Hall has been used by the arts and crafts vendors, but it could be used for
All right,
housing.
now, 3 of us go off the board in March.
Okay.
So unless you find us on your ballots again.
Okay.
You need to keep this, and you need to present it in a way that the board has it for the future.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, you're not done.
Yeah, I have one little thing to add, and that is that Mr. Fox here has volunteered to step forward and to try to find volunteers. And I want to stress that we still need many volunteers if we're going to pull this off. We have to have people for parking, but to direct traffic
Once again,
and stuff like that.
You need to present the board with what you need from us.
Okay, this is not needed from you, but I want it on record that we still need more volunteers other than just the 2 that we have.
Once again, the board will help you in any way, and I'm sure Mr. Richard will, Mr. Lawrence will too. But you need again to put this in writing. What is it you need?
Okay, thank you very much. That will happen. That will happen.
Yeah, if there's a cost, we need to know that too. But even if there is no cost, getting it out at the board meeting is certainly an important part of your, and being more specific. We need volunteers is not enough.
Okay, thank you. You'll get that.
Thank you. Talk about the equestrian committee, or do you want Richard to do that? Okay. We have consideration for approval of the appointment of an equestrian committee. This is to oversee the horse club and the stables themselves, right? You want to go ahead and describe this and give us the names?
I can do that. You have in front of you a resolution.
I do have one comment. I can do it later, right now. I think the resolution is drawn up wonderfully and is great, except for one thing. It says the committee will consist of 5 members, a member of the board of directors as an ex officio voting member. And I don't think that works. That violates our bylaws, which do not allow a board director to be a voting member of the committee. That's the only comment I have.
Well, next officio member.
Well, actually we could, but, okay, I'll make that change. I was copying, actually, much of this is copied from one that you wrote, so.
I never wrote any resolution.
No, not for this, but for another committee, finance committee, I believe it was. It was the finance advisory committee. I plagiarized.
The treasurer was automatically a member of that committee. We don't have anyone automatically.
So it's an ex officio.
Yeah, we could easily discuss that.
I think there does need to be a few changes. And has the horse club seen this? Are you aware of it?
No.
Oh.
It's been sent to the board.
So we don't know whether they have any concerns about it or anything?
I quickly drafted it.
I understand. Okay. Probably need a motion on whether or not to accept this resolution.
I'll make a motion, we accept the resolution with the one noted change regarding the voting member being a director.
I will second that motion.
Okay, we're open for discussion now. One of my concerns is that it talks about the Board of Directors' goals. I don't think we have any written goals. In relation to the stables, of course.
Yes, and you may recall that we discussed that as we were crafting this. The goals that are stated in the agreement is what this makes reference to.
That's where you're getting.
Yes.
Okay. Then I think this should precede that. This should precede the agreement, so.
Well, the board of directors' goals can fluctuate from.
They can change.
Time to time, year to year, depending what happens.
It's
So
probably,
this sort of covers whatever the goals are at the moment, whatever the flavor of the month.
Okay.
That was the logic behind it, yes.
Flavor of the month seems like a little bit too loose.
No,
Does anybody else have any comments?
no, I don't have a problem with it as it's written because goals may change as the stables change or as membership changes.
Okay. Anyone else? Ann, anything over there?
James that man is broken.
Okay. No other comments? Calling the question myself then. All in favor? Opposed? This would be,
Could you read the resolution?
what?
Could you read the resolution?
No, do you want us to?
Yes.
Should we read it?
Now that it's approved, we can. Dan, would you like to read it as?
The motion was to approve the resolution establishing an equestrian committee as written and submitted to the board with the one change, eliminating inclusion of a director from the board of directors as an ex officio voting member.
Okay, now read the resolution itself, please. With that change. Sorry, Christian.
Be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., the association hereby establishes a standing committee known as the Equestrian Committee. The committee will consist of 5 members. Then there's the part that's being eliminated, and the executive officer of the association as a non-voting member. Committee members must be association members in good standing. Committee members will be appointed or reappointed annually at the association's board of directors regular meeting in October by a majority vote of the directors voting. In the event of a vacancy on the committee, the association board of directors shall be at its earliest opportunity and by a majority vote of those directors voting, appoint a replacement to serve the portion of the vacated term. The Equestrian Committee, working with the Fort Clark Springs Horse Club, the Board of Directors, and the Executive Officer, shall facilitate communications between the Horse Club and the Board of Directors and staff, provide oversight of and guidance to the Horse Club, ensuring compliance with the facility use agreement between the association and the Fort Clark Springs Horse Club attached. The Equestrian Committee shall ensure operation of the Horse Club meets the goals of the Board of Directors. The committee shall report their progress, findings, and recommendations to the Association Board of Directors at the regular monthly board meetings. The committee shall serve in an advisory capacity only and shall have no powers or authority to act for or on behalf of the Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc. The Board of Directors and staff shall provide the Equestrian Committee with all the necessary documentation and cooperation necessary to permit the efficient accomplishments of the committee's goals. Further, the Equestrian Committee members will maintain all legally and ethically required confidentiality and compliance with specific instructions provided by the Association's Board of Directors. Passed and approved by the Board of Directors of the Fort Clark Springs Association, Inc., acting in regular session on this day of 2017, and in the signatures of the entire board and notarized.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I should have had that read before, I'm sorry. I thought we were leaving in the board member, not,
Yeah, just taking out the voting.
I thought it was just the voting part that we took out.
They need a board liaison like the other committees
Yeah,
have.
you can always do, none of our committees state, board liaison goals without it being incorporated in the resolution.
Oh, I thought it did.
Do whatever you will with that as long as it's clear that the director's not voting.
I think you just take out the voting and just shows ex officio member.
Yeah.
Okay.
And considering some of the conversations we've had on this, it's probably
In
good.
fact,
idea.
I'd feel a little better if it's, well, as you say, you could say non-voting member, but that's already covered in the bylaws.
Yeah. And then, beyond that, any comments? Okay, we will read it again. I always like to have these things read twice. I don't know where I get that. I get to do it because I'm president.
You want me to read it again?
Not today, next meeting, and then we'll.
Are we going to appoint the members of the committee?
Yes, we are, that's next. I believe we have 5 members to appoint today. Do you have the list?
I do not, but hold on.
I have the list.
Well, then go ahead.
Okay, we have the Horse Club submitted the following names for consideration. Judy Winchell, Linda O'Brien, David Murray, Debbie Isaacs, Melissa Simon, Tim Ward, Dr. Zach Davis, and Dr. Tom Durrell. The executive officers' recommendations are Judy Winchell, Linda O'Brien, David Murray, Melissa Simon, and Kim Van Ort. The only differences are that Kim Van Ort is added to the recommendations from the executive officer, and Dr. Tom Durrell, Dr. Zach Davis, Tim Ward are taken off, and outside of that, they're the same. All of them, it seems the Horse Club would be satisfied with at least 4 of the 5.
Can I make a little statement?
Sure.
I had asked Reverend Murray if he would accept this position. And his first response to me was no, because he had so much on him. And so I asked Mrs. Carolyn Cooper, which is a Horse Club member of 14 years, if she would she be replaced in that position. And then, after I talked to David Lee again, he said that he had decided that he would try to see if he could bring about some kind of an air of reconciliation amongst the Horse Club members, which he has the ability to do. But I'd like to add Ms. Carolyn Cooper's name to the recommendations, since I did ask her if she would serve, and she said she would. Carolyn is sitting right back here. She's a member of the Horse Club for 14 years, I believe she said. And since she agreed to accept it, I would like to have her name put in there.
as, as, as one of the members assigned to be Forest Grove member.
But we have 5 members that are recommended for approval today. Is that right?
Well, I didn't know they had already been selected. That was a pre-selection without my knowledge even as it's been.
They have not been selected. There were 5 that I did recommend that were taken, 4 of which were taken from the list that was presented by the Horse Club. Then there was a 5th individual that I added to that list, and the purpose of that was to provide a balance so that that kind of a reconciliation could occur.
So are we changing, does somebody want to decide the list?
For the sake of balance, I am still proposing those 5.
Well, we can only have 5.
Yes.
And we have, I was comfortable with this list of 5. I didn't realize you were asking.
Can we put Carolyn as an alternate, like we did with the search and certification committee when those 2 girls came in at the last minute, wanted to know how to get on the committee? So,
We're still learning.
well,
I'm not from Texas.
I'm blind to the sex of the applicant,
Okay.
especially nowadays. So, I don't know, just a suggestion to resolve it, that's all.
It works for me. Does it work for you, Carolyn? Where are you? Okay, yes. Does it work for you? Is that all right? Yes. Okay. Then do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion here. I didn't get Carolyn's last name.
Cooper. Cooper. C-O-O-P-E-R.
From Louisiana. Me, it's Cooper, to you, it's Cooper. All right, I'm just a damn Yankee.
Sorry, Debbie, go ahead.
I just wonder if Zach Davis and Dr. Tom would be able to make meetings if we have to have meetings.
They're not recommended.
Oh, they're not recommended.
No.
I heard their names as recommendations.
Those were just the list of people that had been recommended in that. So the list that is actually being, the list that's actually being provided for this committee is what Dan is just about to say or was trying to say.
Okay, well, I just wondered because if we are going to have.
Well, please wait and see.
Okay.
Let me read them off. Debbie, you were on that original. There was a list recommended or turned in by Mr. White from the Horse Club. And then there was also a list put together by Richard for it. Now, Judy Winchell was suggested, recommended by both Mr. White and Richard. Linda O'Brien was recommended by both Mr. White and Richard. David Murray was recommended by both Mr. White and Richard, as Mrs. Melissa Simon was recommended by both Richard and Mr. White. And then Miss Kim Van Ort was added by Richard, and then we're adding Carolyn Cooper as the alternate in case something would happen to one of these members that they couldn't attend.
Okay. Do we have a second? That was a motion, right?
Yes, I'll make a motion that those names that I just read off be appointed as to the equestrian committee.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Keeping in mind that it's a 5-member committee, and this is the first one to be appointed. Go ahead.
Also, it's keeping in mind that it's an advisory committee only. This committee does not have the power to take any action or do anything. They can only make recommendations.
And the recommendation is to the board. Beyond that, I don't know that we need to go any further. Any more discussion? All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I get all five? Okay. There was a comment back there, but discussion is over.
I just want to know who the board member is going to be. Deal with.
Say again?
I'd like to know which board member is the committee. Related to.
Nobody wants to volunteer.
Well-
You're pretty.
I will volunteer if the board so agrees to accept me. I dealt with livestock all my life. I'm not a horse person specifically, but I know there's certain things about dealing with livestock that absolutely have to be adhered to.
I have no problem with you being the person. But that's really not an appointment. It's a volunteer, isn't it? Do you want to fight for it?
Are you kidding me?
I think Ann will do an excellent job.
Yes, is that acceptable to you, Russell? Thank
I
you.
just want to know who's going to be.
Well, we're not going to spring anything on you. Okay,
Good point.
the consideration for approval, the appointment of the recycling committee. And I believe the recycling people have given us some names, and we're not arguing about the names. We have Judy Winchell, Pat Melanson, Elva Stewart, Sandy Herman, and Steve Giblin. Anybody want to make a motion?
I move that we approve the 5 individuals that Madam President just read
I'll
for
second.
the recycling committee.
And I'll second.
We already have Bill Herman that works as a ex officio on that. And of course, there's the rest of us. So I don't think we need to appoint anybody there from the board. We got a motion and a second. Anyone else? All in favor? Consideration for approval, permission to use Dickman Hall for the Health Portrait Charitable Organization. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Joe Hendricks, and I'm a new photographer here in town that's been here almost a year now. And where I came from in Nashville, the photographers got together and we took pictures of people who were less fortunate, who can't afford to have portraits of themselves, and and people who feel like a portrait would turn around their life. We would take pictures of them. It was for free. We print the pictures out, we frame them, we give it back to them. It's turned into a worldwide event that's hosted on CNN, Fox News, and all this other stuff. But it started where I started in Nashville with some friends, and I want to bring it to Bracketville. And honestly, I would love to do it in Bracketville and not on the fort. And no offense to the fort, that's the people that we need to reach to take pictures of. But I'm having trouble finding a space over in Bracketville. So I was talking about maybe using Dickman Hall, the top part, and maybe the bottom part over here to the side for wheelchair accessibility and all that stuff. Everything is donated 100%, photographer's time, printing, and all that stuff.
Is there a better place? Is there a better place, or is that?
On the fort,
yeah,
that's probably the best place for us. And since it's going to be December 2nd is when it is, we shouldn't need air conditioning or anything like that, unless we get a 100-degree day all of a sudden. And that would be terrible.
Joe, you mentioned the second floor. Why would you have to get up there?
Because we need a lot of room. So I'm talking to all the local photographers right now, getting them together, and we provide hair and makeup for these people and food and all that stuff.
I don't know what the access is. The other day I was over there a week or two ago and you couldn't get to the second floor. Everything was locked and shut off.
You can go up the stairs, but you have to go into the front or the side of the building.
Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
we went in the front. Like that door at the stairs, I guess, could be opened up. And it's all safe to go up there.
Yeah,
Don't want to have anybody break their neck.
We had a problem there just recently.
Joe, just
the prom was held up there.
It does work?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Elevator works also.
That's
at
awesome.
one time I heard it only went up or something.
Joe, is this a one-time event you're planning
Yes, ma'am.
for December 2nd?
Yes, ma'am.
What?
And it's going to be from 8 a.m. till, it usually lasts till about 2 or 3 p.m., but it always goes a lot longer.
Except that you present it as an annual event.
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
We wouldn't mind.
And the only photos taken are those that you do at no charge for people. There's none.
Right. If you
Or
can
you
afford to
charge.
have a photo shoot, please don't come. But if it's, I mean, it's for people who, what I want to do is I want to get like suits donated and stuff. So like somebody who's never had a picture taken in a suit can feel good about themselves and see the possibilities, you know, of who they could be and all that stuff. And
My concern is your date of December the 2nd.
Yes, sir.
Coinciding with the Frontier Christmas events,
Okay.
where many of the people you seek to assist will be attending that.
Yes.
There may be conflict there that you may want to rethink your date.
Well, it's
unless you can build upon the Frontier Christmas too.
Yeah, we could definitely build upon it. You know, that's something that I'll consider. It's a worldwide thing that happens on that date specifically.
Okay.
I don't see a
Can't you
reason.
change a worldwide date?
I can talk to some
Do
people.
that.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
Okay, so it's a global event.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't see it during the day.
And all I'm asking for is use of the building for free, since everything else is being donated for the whole entire.
I don't think there's a problem with it.
The only other thing would be if there has been something scheduled already for that venue.
And Carol Ann has already looked and made sure that there was nothing
Okay.
scheduled for that
Okay,
day.
good, thanks.
Yes, sir.
It sounds like that second day in December when they're having that, the Christmas, celebration would be a good time to get a hold of a lot of people who might need their picture taken.
Well, and that might actually be a good Christmas present for them, also to kind of coincide with
It sounds like
Frontier Christmas.
a very nice thing to do.
Let's see if we
I-
can't tie them together.
I have no objection with it being over here, however, it seems like it'd be better off if you were over there where the
Yes,
people
ma'am.
are.
Yes, ma'am, and that's my goal is to go over to like the gymnasium. The Civic Center's already taken, so I honestly just need it as a backup.
Joe?
Over here.
Miss Jan just had a very good idea that if you would have a booth on that Friday so that you can recruit those passersby to do this very thing on Sunday.
Yeah, we can definitely
Yeah,
talk
that's
about that.
kind of what I was thinking about. There ought to be someplace there where the people are.
And we're going to go out into the community as photographers and volunteers and tell people about it.
What about Santa Claus for the children's photos?
These are all great ideas, but I'm just looking for approval of the
You put something
I
up
do
there, you're
welcome
gonna
them,
hear
though.
all of it.
Do we have any? This isn't really something that we need approval for. He just needs to use the.
We can arrange that.
Okay. And I'm glad that you brought it to us, but it isn't something the board needs to approve.
Okay. I was
We
told
are-
that it might be, so I just.
We
wanted to
are
make sure.
happy that you brought it to us.
Okay. Okay.
You do need to work with Richard, though. Do we want a motion just say that we're behind this project? Or shall we assume that it's taken care of by scheduling, building scheduling, venue scheduling, whatever we're calling it? Anybody?
How about just a voice vote?
Well, you're gonna have to give me something to vote on.
Well, I'm thinking about it, I think you're correct, it really, we don't approve when they rent out the NCO club or anything else.
No.
This is just being offered. The only concern I have is being offered gratuitously, which is wonderful, and I'm all for that, as long as it's no commercial enterprise done there. I think it's a commendable project you're doing, it's wonderful, and I see no problem with just.
No one will be advertising, and it's already been penciled in. I'm just here to confirm it and make sure that
Well,
it is.
I think you're here to tell us and the members about it, and I appreciate that. Even though we don't have to approve it, I'm glad that we sort of all agree that it's a good idea.
Like it.
Old unfinished business. The board met with Bernard McGraw. We've extended his contract for 6 more months. At that point, we'll know whether he is making it or not making it, but at the moment, he's doing okay. He's not paying himself much, but he's doing okay. And I think that he's responded to, for instance, the too much fried food by offering grilled food instead and so forth. So I think you should all get out and see what Bernard's got going again. There'll be some more changes on that too. Okay, on the Old Quarry request for theater seating, Marilyn made her presentation. We had not really planned on that because since we had voted by email on this because she had brought it up. We voted against the 200 chairs, and then we voted against the 100 chairs. I wasn't concerned about the amount of money that we would pay, for instance. I was more concerned that we, without any planning ahead of time, we would be making the Post Theater a specific venue that could not be changed. And that was where I was coming from. I know there were other concerns as well. And Dan, you started to go with that.
Well, yes, the email request was unclear. It seemed that we were being asked to spend $1,500 to cover shipping costs of the chairs. And then the question becomes, how often is there an event that would utilize them there? And also the fact that right now we have to take some very serious looks at our expenditures, in my opinion, and our finances. You heard Richard mention the problem we have at the NCO club. So $1,500 maybe isn't a huge amount in terms of our total budget, but it wasn't budgeted in, and I didn't feel we should play that. So I asked for clarification. What came back was they were going to go from 200 chairs to 100 chairs, but the $1,500 was still mentioned, and it was not at that time made clear that we would not have to pay any of the transportation. So I did put one email out that said I could go along with their plan as long as it didn't cost us anything, but I didn't hear anything back on it. And so then I deferred to Myrna's position and her concerns for it.
I'm probably to blame for the whole thing, is that what you're saying? I'm to blame for the whole thing, right? I don't mind accepting that. I'm really concerned that getting the chairs made available did not make a plan for the venue. And if we're going to start doing that sort of thing, then we need to make a plan for not just that building, but other buildings on the fort. I also said we might just give these soft chairs to the Old Quarry people to use in the theater, I mean, they're soft. Why not? You're shaking your head. They're not soft. They're no fun. Okay. Any more discussion on that?
It's a moot point.
We didn't do anything, we just, that was something I said. So don't worry about that. Do we have a report of the bylaws workshop? We worked with the now defunct bylaws committee to be sure that we understood where they were coming from on the parts of the bylaws that they changed. Then Sandy and I are working on trying to get the language to fit across the old and the new. And that we should have. Yeah, we're meeting again on Tuesday. We should have it soon after. And probably we need to schedule a workshop for members to attend. Since we're pretty workshopped out next week, I don't know when a good time for a bylaws workshop is for the membership. Do we want to look at that, or do we want to?
Well, I guess we could all check our calendars and then have Richard add it to the dispatch.
That seems more reasonable. Seems like everything's in the next few weeks, so maybe we do it before the Christmas stuff starts. Yes, okay. Under new business, we have the report from the Finance Advisory Committee.
Okay. John Brennan, John Grissom, and Bruce Trotwine, Mr. Lawrence, and I met on October 10th with the Finance Advisory Committee. Before that, I had sent them copies of budget, copies of the assessment, increased calculations. They had already been given copies of the declaration. They had a chance to review all the financials that Richard had sent them. They made a request that each of our different venues' budgets be broken out. Richard, you're working on that, right? And that's being held up right now also because of the problem we're having with our systems. So we talked about short and long-term plans. Then after this lengthy conversation, I asked them to either get together and present one recommendation, or they could each send their own. And they decided that that John Brennan would prepare it, and then John Grissom added some things to it. So just to make it easy, I'm going to read what the committee advised. And then we can talk about it. Okay, budget. He said it's requested that the budget be broken out to show income and associated expenses for each income producing area: admin, motel, RV, recreation, golf. And Richard's working on that. As far as the assessments, since the proposed budget was prepared with the assessment included, and since the proposed budget is already tight, it is recommended that the proposed $1 assessment increase be presented to the board for approval. As a side note, the billing, the coupons have gone out under the old assessment rate, which is why we wanted to do this before those were due to go. Because now we have to change our logistics to resend coupons, and now is not the time when we can do that.
You can't make that statement without the board having a vote
Well,
on it.
I'm not. I'm just saying that if the board votes, we will have to resend coupons. So just making you aware of that. Operation equipment needs. It is recommended that these items be reviewed individually by the board and that the approved aggregate equipment be presented as a 2018 special assessment for approval by the board. Motel capital improvements. All of these items add to the desirability of the motel property and will have their greatest impact on revenue generation if they are all done concurrently in the shortest time possible and with the least disruption to guests. Since these are capital improvements with at least a 20-year lifespan, it is recommended that these items be paid for through debt financing. It is also recommended that the cost of financing, principal plus interest, be recovered through a special assessment to be collected each year for the term of the debt. Example, $100,000 loan for 5 years at 5% interest has a monthly payment of $1,887. This would result in 5 annual assessments of $22,000, 12 times 1887. Operations equipment needs. It is recommended that these items be reviewed individually by the board and that the approved aggregate equipment be presented as a 2018 special assessment for approval by the board. FCS member survey. It has been recommended that the board participate in a strategic working session to develop a vision, strategies, and goals for FCS. The results of this workshop would then be used for setting priorities, making investment decisions, and preparing budgets for future years. A key input for the workshop is to understand what the members want in the areas of lifestyle, services, activities, and amenities. It is recommended that the FCS member survey be presented to the board for approval to distribute. It is anticipated that it will be prepared as an online survey with hard copies available at the guard station and admin office. An addendum to that from Mr. Griswold. I basically agree with everything John's proposed. Regrettably, it appears the proposed annual dollar assessment increase is overdue and necessary just to balance next year's budget. I especially liked covering the motel's necessary improvements with short-term debt. That way there is still life in the improvements after they're paid for, and the assessment to cover them will be just as short as the note and can end when it's paid off. I realize it is one of our best income-producing properties and as such has always been utilized to subsidize our members' fees. But it's apparent that we need to infuse some much-needed repairs to keep it marketable. However, before I can make any more comments on other expenditures, I will wait until we see the income versus expense reports separated for each of them as promised. Then too, our member survey, when completed, published and returned, will be an excellent future tool for a go-forward blueprint based on member priorities. Also included in your packet is the revised FCS member survey. They went back and took all of the recommendations from the board, from the staff, and from each other, and they combined it in basically just a 2-page front and back survey. They kept or included those items that affect most of the members. They removed suggestions that referred only to small groups of people with a particular interest in just that thing. Like, for instance, wildflowers, because there's a certain group of people that like that, but it doesn't affect the entire membership. So, I would, first of all, like to make a motion that we accept the Finance Advisory Committee's member survey and for the purpose of disseminating it to our membership so they can take the survey and give the information requested to the Finance Advisory Committee.
Survey?
Yes, doing the survey first.
Oh.
Is there a second?
Second.
You're talking about just the survey?
Yes.
Just the survey.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Bill beat you to it. Any more discussion on that? It says submit by email. Do we have the possibility of that?
I believe so, yes. It's a PDF form, and when you hit it, it'll be emailed, but it doesn't allow you to save a copy of the survey unless you print it out prior to emailing.
But you can fill in
Yes.
And we're also going to print copies and put them in admin, golf course, restaurant, just the places where people gather, so that you can fill one out and just hand it in to admin. And then the Finance Advisory Committee will collate the surveys and make the recommendations from that. Okay.
This is basically just a very loose, informal,
Yes.
uncontrolled survey. On the first page of it, after the lifestyle group, then there's service activities in a group, and then underneath that, service activities again, where there's 5 items that are duplicates to the one above, and then hunting and gymnasium exercise equipment added
Yeah, I
after.
see that. I'll have them correct
Yeah,
that.
I was just wondering if there's something I was missing there that those come off.
No, I just think that's something that John missed when he put it together.
The title, the heading for both is service activities. I don't know that they would want to leave it that way.
We'll correct that then.
Anyone else? Okay. Ready for a vote? All in favor of allowing the Finance Committee to use this member survey? I thought that's what the...
Yeah.
Okay.
I will get that immediately to John.
Correct, the member survey, okay. Okay.
Does the board have any questions for me about the meeting or about the recommendations?
We're not taking any action on these recommendations.
No, we're not taking any action on the...
I didn't hear you ask for any of it.
No, in fact, the reason why I mentioned that about the assessments is that ordinarily with this recommendation, I would have placed on the agenda a vote on increasing assessments. However, since we have just sent out the coupons, and I don't want to interfere with that part of our our money generating assessments. So what we're going to do is wait until the
We also have not warned the membership.
And at the last it was 2 meetings ago, when I brought up the increase in assessments based on the CPI, members did state that they felt they should have been warned that one was coming. So this is what the Finance Advisory Committee has recommended, that we do increase assessments by $1 per membership. So take this as a warning that it is probably not assured, because we haven't voted on it, but coming in the future.
You have a question back there?
I do. I understand that you're not taking any action, but my question is, if for the past few months there hasn't been a financial briefing given to the board from the executive director, how is it safe to say that we're not meeting our budget and just kind of putting a Band-Aid on it and saying, well, we're going to ask for more money? How is that justified?
Well, the board hasn't voted on it either, so
Yes, ma'am. I
we're
understand.
going to be asking those very questions when it comes to a vote.
Mayor.
Thank you for bringing it up.
But we have had, this is actually the first month we haven't had any financial P&L reports. And we, as a board, try to stay up on this stuff as day-by-day basis. Okay, and the reason we don't have them today, as Richard explained, was because of some glitches in our systems. But we have gotten P&L reports, and we know pretty much what goes on every day, so.
Yes, ma'am, and I understand that. I think my overarching concern is that when there is something talked about with money, there's always that, and oh, by the way, this isn't completely accurate because X, Y, Z. And I feel that if maybe there was a point where we could have an accurate report.
Seems to me like we should have one too, so.
Yes, ma'am.
You are voicing the concerns that the board, the members of the board themselves have, as does the executive officer. Yes, Chuck?
I'm sorry, I'm asking for clarification on something that I didn't understand in the report. You were talking about maintenance and so on for the equipment and so on, and did I understand correctly that they said the way to cover that was a special assessment?
That is what the Finance Advisory Committee
Right.
is saying, yes.
Right. Okay, and that came out on every single item, right?
No, that's.
Only 3 of them.
Pardon me?
Only 3 of
Oh,
them.
hell, I feel better now. Only 3 of them.
Well, and ladies and gentlemen, this is why we appointed the committee, to get people to take a different look than the board sees every time. And they are doing that. And we have asked them for the recommendations. It's advisory only. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to go along with it. But it's the reason that we appointed them is to help us look at these things. And if you recall, a couple of months ago, we purposely tabled the assessment increase, waiting to hear what the Finance Advisory Committee said about it. So now I am telling you what they said about it.
Right.
So, this is.
And we are not saying that we agree or disagree. We're simply telling you what the Finance Committee said.
Yes, ma'am.
And but it gives us some things to look at, and we go from there.
I said we were workshopped out, but our next item of business is that we need to schedule a tour for the board members to visit the areas of the fort in need of repairs and/or replacement. It's like we don't believe it when they tell us. Do you have a date when you want us to do this?
Actually, there's a couple of ways that we could handle this. We could go as a group, or we could go in pairs, or we could go one at a time. But
I would very much like to go as a group.
I think that would be the best way to go. So really, if I can have a couple of days' notice, then we can make the preparations we need to make so that it's safe for everybody to go through.
Next week
We-
is out because you.
Next week is bad.
We do not get together as a group because we're not allowed to, remember?
You would have to post it.
No, I'm saying we can.
It's a workshop.
We can do that as a special meeting, but we need to say now when we're going to do it.
Can I make a recommendation then? We shoot for
That's what I asked you for.
the, let us look at the 1st and 2nd of November, Wednesday, Thursday. Wednesday preferable to Thursday.
Well, Thursday's preferable to me. But Wednesday I can
I'm just not sure whether that day they'll be cleaning the swimming pool and.
Oh, that's right. The first is Wednesday. The first is Wednesday.
November?
Yes.
And
And
the
that's.
third is out.
It's not out.
The fourth is out. I was going for Friday.
We'll meet at what time, where?
You want it to be on the second, is that what you're saying?
Well, let me go back. No, I said not necessarily the 2nd. It could be the 2nd.
When do you actually want it to be?
I think that, given Philip's workload, a Wednesday would be better.
And can it be Wednesday morning or is it Wednesday afternoon?
It
Which
can.
is better?
It can be the morning.
Just tell me which is better.
Can we do 10 o'clock on Wednesday, the 1st?
Sure. Works for
Is
me.
Wednesday, I've got Wednesday the 2nd. We're talking about November, right?
November
Yeah.
1st, Wednesday.
It's not on my calendar.
Is
Are
that
you
this
in-
year's calendar?
Are you in?
Oh, I'm in 2016. never mind.
That's what I thought I
We already
had.
had the meeting. We were-
Let me jump right up to 2017.
Okay, maintenance tour is 10
Okay,
o'clock.
you're right. No, no,
And,
10 o'clock.
and let me confirm that with Philip, please.
Sure.
Yes. Is there an alternate you would go for if that one didn't work?
Let's shoot for the Friday morning as an alternate.
Okay. Where will we meet? Here?
I would like you to meet at the motor pool.
Okay.
We'll go from there to the various buildings
And you have a way to
as well.
transport them?
I will.
Okay.
Maybe.
Get a little short. Rent them.
Okay, and then with Friday the 3rd as an alternate.
Yes.
We did discuss the petition that was brought to us at the last meeting, but we did put off any kind of voting on it. Let me start the discussion. I don't think we're ready for a motion to put something in there, and I'll explain my thinking. This is not the only place that we desperately need air-conditioned heating. And when we put something in that's new, we also add a monthly bill. In other words, we right now don't have a monthly bill from this building, but we will have one once we put this air conditioning in. Okay, I've opened the discussion.
I would have some comments. I do not deny that it makes sense to have a decent heating and air conditioning unit in that gym area at the adult center. Right now, today, the problem is several problems. One is we're not even sure of our financial situation till the glitch in financial statements get straightened out. There could have been glitches that have affected the past statements that we have that could throw things off differently. We're also, as you just heard, we have a financial advisory committee of all things is talking about borrowing large amounts of money. And so we really need to get a handle on where we're at. And we are faced with some serious expenditures, and Richard already referred to the foundation and the NCO club. We have other things coming up that can amount to a meaningful, substantial amount of money to deal with. I think we need to get all those things together. Myself, I'd like to see it put together, both for the financial committee recommendations, what are the improvements or repairs that are really necessary and replacements, what is the cost going to be for that? We have an issue coming up with the health insurance for employees. What is the cost going to be? Additional unbudgeted, unknown costs we're going to be hit with there. We need to have all that information before we start making decisions on spending additional money on other things. That's my opinion. So I think we need to put this off for a bit, and then it has to fall into a list and be prioritized. Is it more important to do that or fix the foundation on the club? Those decisions have to be made. So I think at this time, Myrna is correct. I don't feel we're ready to deal with a motion to provide the money. Although the need cannot be argued, sure, it would be useful and proper to have it, but can we afford it? We don't know.
Anyone else want to add their Go ahead.
I think this kind of goes along with the Financial Committee's recommendation of things to do and how to do them. So this would be, to me, part of that decision.
I happen to agree with all of them that have said anything. We do need to know what we need to prioritize. And there's absolutely no doubt that we need something in the gym. I mean, it's hot in the summer, it's cold in the winter. Believe me, we really do realize that there is a problem over there. But it's a matter of funding. And I wanted to thank those people that signed the petition, but please do not think that we don't care. It's just a matter of financing right now. So.
Let me call him. I see you back there. Go for it.
Thank you.
You are actually, excuse me,
well,
you are actually listed on the 15-member.
yes.
And that's what you're talking about, is that right?
Yes, yeah. Now, I'm not going to bring up the issue that Helena, because I understand what y'all said, and I respect that, and I don't have a problem with it.
What?
But what I'd like to say, are we under 15 minutes or no?
Well, since you're listed here and that's what you're going to talk about.
I'm going to talk about something, but not this specifically, because you said it's an issue.
Okay,
And I respect y'all's decision.
I've got you.
But you don't have the money for this.
Well, we don't know for sure.
Right,
That's
right.
That's
But
where we
you
are.
have this, and she's listed 10 reasons.
Yes, we've got that too.
But I'm going to talk
But
about
I
that.
could list 10 reasons for another building.
Exactly. Now, so what I would like to talk about is in keeping with things that have been brought up from the recommendations of the committee and so on, I'm going to, once again, ask y'all, it still seems to me that you need a committee to advise, to help save expenditures on what we're doing. Once again, okay, and I'm just gonna quote what I've heard. We have a bid over here of $11,000, we have a bid over here for the same job from a different way, in excess, I think, of 18 or 19, whatever it was.
No, that was the estimate of what
Right,
it would
an
just
estimate,
cost.
right. But all I'm saying is, if you had the committee who has no authority to do anything, to buy anything, they just make a recommendation to y'all to take some time and let them concentrate on getting y'all the best bang for your buck. You still make that decision. But I don't think we're looking at things with financial intelligence here. And we're just grasping, we'll take that one, we need to have a committee that's gonna bring the information to you that will give you the best bang for your buck. And there are plenty of people that are willing to get on that committee.
I'm sorry, I keep getting the best bang for my buck, but not getting what the committee would do.
The committee, you guys would notify the committee what you need. Let's say for the sake of argument, we need to replace some mowing machines. There's different types, so it could be any type. This committee could start researching and find out where they could get the best price for the machines. Give you all the information, and you make the purchase.
Are you
Because y'all don't seem to have that.
You're talking about a procurement.
Well, in essence, but they're not really, once again, they don't have any authority to buy anything. They can't spend any money. All they're doing is assisting you to get the best buy for the problem.
Okay,
And
you talk good, write some of this down and submit it to the board.
okay, I submitted an application for this committee once before and never heard a word.
I'm sorry, I don't remember that.
Well, you're the one who told me, will you put an application? I said, I'll put it in tomorrow.
I don't remember getting it.
That was for the Finance Advisory Committee, and that was a different function.
No, that was for this same thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
see
I didn't know
Y'all came back later on and made the finance committee. I never put in for that.
That's where I think that there's a difference in understanding what you're suggesting. I think I'm clear on what you're suggesting. What I don't know is what happened to Do you have a copy of it by any chance?
No, I don't think so. I submitted in the office up here, and, because you said, if we did a committee like that, would you volunteer? Helena and I both put in an application for it. But
That
then
was
she
for the
got-
finance committee.
No, sir, it was not.
Yes, it was.
It was not.
But what committee did you put in?
I
that
put in
picture?
for a committee to start an advisory committee.
Did
Oh, no, what committee did you volunteer for?
What's what I'm trying to tell you. The one we talked about here in front of the board, and she said, well, you put an application in for it. I did it the next day.
That's not.
What
I
committee
wanted
was
to-
that?
I didn't want you to apply for the committee. I wanted you to describe the committee.
I did both in that.
I don't know what happened to it.
I don't either. I submitted in the front office.
Okay, it was placed with the applications for the finance committee.
Which I had no interest in at all.
Well, that's what happened
And
to
when I
it.
talked to Helena, she thought that's what the finance committee was for. And that's why she volunteered for that. So she said that she had been a little confused when I explained what it was. So she was inclined to be on the finance committee. So those two applications were put in with the finance committee application.
Okay. Once again, I'm not here to
I
argue the
don't-
point.
well-
I'm just talking about, you
I'm-
should
I'm-
look at a committee like that to take some of the burden off of everybody and see if it can be something that would be successful for purchasing.
Do you think you could work with Chuck on what exactly this application or this submission? Should it be a committee of the board, or should it just be an advisory committee to the
Just an
purchasing?
advisory
and-
committee.
Projects to be done.
Well,
I'm talking, please, to,
I suppose when that time comes, after the board has an opportunity to review all the projects and all the equipment needs and whatnot that we have, for the board to then prioritize those, and if Ms. Batista would like to help us to research that would be fine. I don't see any downside to that.
It's like when we discussed at that time, Philip was standing back there, and he said, good gracious, I'd love to have an advisory committee like that, because I spent so much time trying to get bids for different things.
at the same time that we were talking about all of this, the finance committee was getting off the ground. And I think that's where all this went.
Okay? That's
What
lots of
I
meetings to me.
was
I'm just saying, we should,
I
y'all should
understand.
look
Why
at
don't
it.
you
I
have,
understand.
why don't we get together very soon and let's talk about this and see how it might work and what can be.
Okay, I'm going out of town tomorrow.
Me too.
Okay, and I'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Okay. Holler at me when you get back.
Okay, I'll do
Let's
that.
visit about it.
Thank you.
Thank you to Chuck. Helena, did you have more on that, or can we move on?
She's gone. She's gone.
Okay, good, then she didn't have more on that. Allison, were
Well,
you
she
done
did,
with?
She did, she asked me to present it, but y'all said you weren't gonna do
Took
anything, so I
that,
didn't bother.
Did you have more on Fort Clark days?
Thank you. I did sign up before Chuck asked me to talk to the board. There are two people here I would like to introduce, though, that will be major players in Fort Clark Days. Mr. Stephen Fox, who has already been working with some people and getting volunteers and figuring out if it could be done. And then also Miss Linda O'Brien as well, major players in getting Fort Clark Days going. So thank you.
Fantastic. Anyone else who wants to volunteer should talk to either Stephen or Linda? Is that what we could say? Do you have anything to say yourself that you'd like to speak up right now?
No, not at this time. I want to get found.
All right. Thank you. Phyllis, do you have something on the ladies' luncheon?
Good morning. I'd like to let you know that in conjunction with Chef Bernard, there will be a ladies' luncheon on November the 7th at the Grill. It will be a New Orleans Thanksgiving feast. The cost will be $12.
Excuse me, Phyllis, there's some talking over here that's kind of making it difficult to hear.
Anyway, the date is November the 7th, which is Election Day. And it'll be at the Grill at 12 o'clock. The cost will be $12. And we will have an RSVP, and it'll go out in the bulletin. It'll be posted in Jan's or in the Kenny County Post, and hopefully we'll have some flyers out. Look forward to seeing the new faces at the grill and supporting it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on, Maria.
Thank you. I added my name to the 15-minute member discussion because I wanted to, as we've gone through a few meetings and I've seen donation requests and like now a request for a whole building, what I might want to express is my concern, maybe, that most organizations have a specific pot of money where they say this is going to be our cap for how much we donate, whether it's monetarily, through our facilities, whatever it might be. And my concern is that maybe we might want to consider that for the next review for a budget or review for what we do, because.
We do have.
Well, and see, I didn't know we did. So, but I like with this building, for example, if in fact it is used for a charitable event, yay! I love charitable events, but at what point is it too much to give something like a building?
It's so rare as to be not even concerned. You know? We even for something like this, it's terribly rare that we would allow a building to be used. But he's already tried to get a building in Bracketville, wasn't able to do this. The second floor, which the high school people fixed for their prom, would be an ideal place, he thinks. So it's a rare thing that we would give it over for free, so to speak.
Yes, ma'am, and I understand that. And I'm not specifically saying just this one thing. What the bigger picture is that it does set a precedence, because this year the fort is going to give this. So next year the fort's going to be expected to give this. And the following year, and so the precedence that it sets.
I don't know about the rest of the board, but I don't yield to expectations.
Well, ma'am, we just saw it with the Fort Clark Days stuff. That the fort has previously done it, so there's an expectation it's going to happen. I love Fort Clark Days.
Fort Clark Days is a significant difference from from what you're describing there. I think you're comparing apples and oranges here.
Well, I'm just being big picture. You know, because I believe when the Boy Scouts were here, there was concerns financially. Can we give them money? And you know, those are all your decisions to make, and I respect that. But I think it's concerning for me to see that just bringing up a building is okay to give when that now puts that building out of being able to be used for rental purposes. Then you've got to figure out insurance for that event, because they're going to have some kind of insurance for it. And so that's something that the fort's going to include in that donation. So I'm not asking for anyone to make a decision on it. I'm just saying it's concerning that the donation pool is so wide that does cost a member, and that would be concern for why we need to raise our fees. So that's all. I just wanted to bring that concern.
I'm not sure whether you wanted a response or.
Oh, I don't need one. That's okay. No, I don't need one. I just wanted to voice the concern.
Okay, then thank you.
Thank you.
That was the last one I had, unless somebody wanted to grab it real quick. Please don't. We didn't quite make 15 minutes, but it's enough for me. The board will now, at 11:18, adjourn for executive session. The word adjourn wasn't coming.
No. Oh,
It's 12:59, and we're returning to the regular session. During our executive session, we discussed member issues, and we have a motion related to that.
I make a motion that the mesquite tree and other plantings in the parking area adjacent to Lot 3, Block 20, Unit 21, be cleared and removed from that area.
I second the motion.
Any further discussion? All in favor? The rest of our session was a discussion of the redesign of the website. We have two thank you, two proposals, and we have not made it clear from what exactly we want, so there's no way to compare the two proposals. So we're going to ask for more information on that. And was there anything else? I don't think so. In that case, at 1:01, we are adjourned.
I'll see you guys Wednesday.